Revealed, the incredible contract clause that cost them 120M and changed everything forever. Jake turned onto Maple Street, the fading sunset casting a warm glow over the small Midwestern town that he called home. His heart raced as he drove past the familiar faces of neighbors and friends finishing up their workdays. After a long shift at his mechanic shop, the last thing he needed was another dose of bad news. Yet, the buzz in the air wrapped around him, it felt electric and ominous all at once. Rumors of a corporate giant planning to set up shop nearby had quickly transformed into an all-consuming topic of conversation. The diner was packed with townsfolk, voices mingling into an excited hum. Pie slices adorned the tables, and the smell of coffee lingered. A sense of camaraderie filled the room, but beneath it lay concern. "Did you hear about the contract?" An older gentleman exclaimed, hands gesturing wildly. "They're going to take our town for a ride." A collective murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Just as he prepared to enter, a startling thought struck Jake. This wasn't merely about lost jobs, it was about the unraveling of everything he held dear. He thought of Ethan and how he wanted to give him everything he could: in education, a chance at a brighter future. But here was a giant threatening to emerge from the shadows, ready to trample down what they'd built together. "Hey, Jake!" Mr. Thompson called him over. The retired war veteran had seen conflict before, and now his voice trembled with urgency. "You need to see this." He slid a crinkled paper across the table. "This is what they don't want you to know." Jake's heart sank as he read the hidden clause threatening local businesses, spelling out a loss that totaled $120 million. A tight knot formed in his chest. The struggle to provide for Ethan wasn't just his anymore. It was about protecting their entire community. Would they stand together? As Jake's jaw clenched, he met Mr. Thompson's gaze. They shared an unspoken promise they'd fight for what's right. "We can't let them take what we've built," Jake declared, his voice louder than he expected, catching the attention of those nearby. The diners fell silent. Hope flickered in the air, yet uncertainty shadowed it. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. The days passed with escalating tension. Confronting the corporation felt insurmountable. Jake was determined, but scared. The weight of his choices felt heavier day by day. He needed support, and gathered people at the park, revealing details of what could happen if they let this corporation take over. Vague expressions of concern shifted into anger, igniting many to join the fight. In the comfort of their home, Ethan's laughter pierced through Jake's thoughts. As they sat together on the couch, discussing their dreams in the faint glow of a table lamp, a shiver of connection sparked. "Dad, how can we help?" Ethan's innocent question tugged at Jake's heart. Jake swallowed hard. "We'll show them what it means to be part of a community." But just as they found strength in each other, a betrayal surfaced that threatened to shatter their unity, leaving Jake wrestling with decisions that could change everything. With their future hanging by a thread, the clash against deceptive greed was about to escalate. Would they stand strong together, or would the weight of it all drive them apart? The sun lingered low in the sky as shadows stretched longer across the park, where Jake stood surveying the crowd that had gathered. Anxiety tightened his chest as he took in the faces, each one weary but resolute. They were here for a fight, but Jake couldn't shake the doubt that echoed in his mind. What if they were too late? "All right, everyone," he called out, striving to command their attention. "I know we're all worried about what's happening, but we can't lose hope now." A few heads nodded, a flicker of determination sparking within him. He continued, "We've got the evidence, this contract clause that threatens our livelihoods. But we also have each other. We can't back down. We'll band together and make our voices heard." The murmurs grew louder, and he could feel the energy shift in the air. It was the spirit of his community, vibrating in harmony. Each person clutched onto that feeling of unity. Then, in the corner of his eye, He noticed Mr. Thompson lifting a fist in solidarity. The veteran's weathered face was lit up with fierce resolve. Yet, despite the solidarity that felt almost tangible, doubt gnawed at Jake. The looming corporate entity wasn't going to back down easily. He had seen enough in his life to know that large companies didn't play fair. Their tactics could be ruthless. That night, seated at the kitchen table with Ethan busy scribbling on a notepad nearby, Jake felt the burden of the impending battle pressing down on him. "Hey, buddy," he said, looking across to his son. "You're really okay with all this? I mean, taking on the big guys?" Ethan stopped his drawing and looked up, his eyes wide with sincerity. "Dad, we're a team. If they hurt our town, we should do something about it." His youthful zest brought a glimmer of hope amidst Jake's turmoil. "Yeah, we'll do it together," Jake affirmed, but the weight of responsibility settled heavily on his shoulders. The next few days spiraled into a whirlwind of strategy meetings, late-night brainstorming sessions, and community rallies. As people joined in, Jake felt their collective determination surge. They created flyers "Save Maple" and organized protests. The energy was infectious, but so many questions loomed, like dark clouds. Would their voices even matter? One evening, while walking home from the mechanic's shop, Jake stopped at the old oak tree, the one where he and Ethan shared countless picnics and laughter. How could something so familiar now feel so alien? It struck him then this wasn't just about keeping brands out. It was about preserving memories, family ties, and the lifeblood of their hometown. It was in the depths of his pondering that his phone buzzed. Glancing down, he saw a text from Mr. Thompson. "Urgent. Meet at the diner at 8. We need everyone." Jake's heart raced. What now? He rushed to the diner, where he found gathered neighbors and friends, faces taut with worry and anticipation. The mood was heavy, electrified with an undercurrent of urgency. Mr. Thompson stood at the center, the crumpled paper clutched tightly in his hands. "I just got word. They're planning to accelerate their moves. We need a plan, and we need it fast." A hush settled over the crowd as the gravity of the situation sank in. Would their community rise in the face of this new challenge, or would they crumble under the weight of corporate greed? Jake's mind raced, heart pounding in rhythm with the commitment he felt for the town and for Ethan. "Let us make a stand together," Jake shouted, feeling the electricity shift in the room. Everyone looked up, eyes ignited with fierce determination. But as voices began to rally, a new fear crept in. Who could they trust, and what devastating decisions would they have to make? The crowd surged with renewed energy, but Jake couldn't shake the worry that loomed over them like a falling shadow. And just as they began to strategize, a familiar figure stepped through the door. It was someone he never thought would turn against them, and the truth would turn Jake's world upside down. Would he manage to keep the united front they so desperately needed? Or would betrayal become their undoing? The bell above the diner door jingled, slicing through the thick tension in the air. Jake turned, heart skipping a beat. There stood Lisa, the mayor's assistant, her face pale and drawn. The chatter of his friends stilled as she walked toward them, her gaze flickering nervously among the familiar faces. "Lisa?" Jake's voice broke through the silence. "What are you doing here?" With a deep breath, she steadied herself. "I just heard about the fast-track plans. They're moving quicker than expected. I came to warn everyone." Her voice trembled slightly, the impact of her words hitting harder than a thunderclap. Jake felt a rush of anger. Why didn't anyone tell us this sooner? "I tried. But the mayor, she's been pressured." Lisa clenched her fists. "You know how it goes. Big money talks. I had to sneak out just to get here." The crowd murmured, feelings of betrayal starting to bubble to the surface. How could they trust someone connected to the very power they were battling? The room felt heavy, but it was Jake who stood up first. "Lisa," he said, voice steady despite the chaos inside him. "We need to know everything you have. This fight is for our futures, for the future of Maple." With wide eyes, she nodded and pulled out a folded sheet of paper from her pocket. "The Article of Amendment," she said, voice low. "This outlines the loopholes they plan to exploit. It's worse than we thought." As Lisa began speaking, Jake's heart raced. The room hung on her every word as she explained how the corporation intended to sidestep regulations, shifting the playing field further in their favor. The details washed over Jake like icy water, awakening the fear he thought he could wrestle down. What chance did they have against such manipulation? There's more, she added, voice barely above a whisper. The contract includes clauses about community dissent that if the protests disrupt their operations, they can throttle any funding to local initiatives. They want to silence us. A ripple of fear surged through the crowd. Jake felt a chill creep over him. This wasn't just about losing jobs, it was about erasing their very voices. Ethan's smiling face flickered in his mind. No, someone shouted among the crowd, shaking their head in disbelief. We can't let them scare us. We've got to fight harder. It was Mr. Thompson, standing tall, fists clenched in defiance. Jake grabbed onto that spark of hope. Yes, right? We can't allow them to snuff us out. If they think they can intimidate us, they're in for a shock. But as the words left his mouth, doubt crept back in. What if they lost everything fighting against a force that seemed unstoppable? Ethan stood up, his small frame cutting through the adult turmoil. Dad, can we really do this? Can we win? Jake knelt beside him, searching his son's trusting eyes. We can, Ethan. But we need everyone here to step up. This isn't just about us anymore, it's for everyone who believes in Maple. The townspeople slowly began to murmur their agreement, but the fear remained palpable. They were nervous about their livelihoods, their families, and their futures. Just as the conversation shifted towards distributing responsibilities, a loud crash echoed from the diner entrance. The door swung open violently, and two suited men barged in, eyes scanning the crowd with a predatory gaze. Let's put an end to this charade, one of them sneered. This town doesn't stand a chance against the likes of us. Jake's palms went clammy. They had expected pushback, but nothing like this. The atmosphere thickened with fear and anger. Their fight had just gone from a grassroots effort to a full-on confrontation. Would they be able to rally together one last time, or would the overwhelming weight of intimidation crush their resolve? As uncertainty danced in the air, Jake knew one thing for sure: this was only the beginning. Here we stand, he shouted defiantly, reaching for the collective fire ignited among them. But would their defiance be enough to hold back the storm that was coming? The suited men strode forward, exuding an air of indifference, as if the gathering of determined citizens whispered only a faint, annoying hum in the background. Jake's heart raced as he caught the eye of one of the interlopers, a man with slicked-back hair who seemed to take a perverse pleasure from the chaos around them. Who do you think you are? Jake fired back, his voice gaining strength. He could feel the tension in the diner sharpen like a knife's edge. You don't belong here. And yet here we are, the man replied, a condescending smirk tugging at his lips. You really don't understand how this works, do you? We own the rights to this town now. You can scream and shout all you like, but this is just the beginning of what's to come. A collective gasp rippled through the gathered townsfolk. Jake felt the anger rise in him. If you think you can bulldoze us without a fight, you're mistaken. Ethan's small hand gripped Jake's arm tightly, fear evident in his wide eyes. Jake glanced down at him, shoulders tense, but there was a fire igniting inside him that pushed back against the panic swelling in the room. Listen, everyone. Lisa's voice pierced through the rising tide of dissent, drawing eyes back to her. We have to stick together. Every plan they have depends on breaking us apart. The men exchanged glances, and their expressions turned harder. You think you can organize a resistance? The second man barked, his voice rising with anger. This is a waste of time. You'll owe us everything when this is over. Jake inhaled deeply, weighing the heavy threat. A life without Maple, without friends and family, was unthinkable. The scene ignited within him a desperate urgency. Let us show them they're wrong. We have the community, and we won't back down. Mr. Thompson stepped closer, voice booming. And to prove we won't be cowed, we are going to fight you in every way possible. We'll raise funds, we'll gather a coalition, all to make sure this town stands united. He glanced at Lisa, determination shining in his eyes. What is our next step? Lisa nodded, heartened by his resolve. We must document everything. Every loophole, Every public meeting we organize, everything needs to be recorded. If we get our story in the media and on social platforms, the world will see what you're doing, and they will rally to our side. Ethan looked up at Jake, hope flickering in his gaze. Can we really do that, Dad? Yes, Jake affirmed, ruffling his son's hair. We're going to fight to protect this town and its people. Together. The atmosphere shifted. It was subtle at first, but Jake felt it. Around him, shoulders that had been slumped in fear began to straighten. Faces that had been downcast now held the glimmer of defiance, but the suit-wearing intruders were not finished. The first man leaned in, bitterness etched in every line on his face. You can scream all you like, but once the bulldozers roll in, there's nothing anyone can do. Jake's heart thumped loudly in his chest. He couldn't let the fear seep into the hearts of his neighbors. Then let them come. If they think they can overpower the spirit of this town, they have no idea who they're dealing with. Just as the tension seemed to snap like a taut wire, the second man gestured dismissively. We'll be back. You can count on it. With that, he walked toward the door, the first man following suit, leaving an air of unease behind them. Jake felt weight settle back into the diner. Was this really just the start? Their resolve had sparked, but doubts still loomed large. Now we have to plan, Jake urged, looking at the faces of friends and neighbors ready to stand by his side. But even as he spoke, a gnawing anxiety fizzed under the surface. What if their loudest voices couldn't drown out the powerful silence that lay ahead? As murmurs of ideas began to swirl, a figure stepped into the doorway, someone Jake had never expected to see. His heart dropped. Would this unexpected visitor help or hinder their cause? The door creaked open, and all heads turned. A figure stood silhouetted against the bright light outside. As they stepped forward, recognition crashed over Jake like a wave of ice water. It was Clara, the town's former mayor, a woman known for her fierce dedication to Maple and her unyielding fight against corruption. What is she doing here? Someone whispered, their voice laced with skepticism. Clara looked older, wearier, but there was a spark in her eyes that immediately quieted the diner. Everyone hung on her every movement, waiting for the energy she once radiated to envelop the room again. She took a breath, seemingly gathering thoughts that had weighed heavily on her. I heard the commotion, she began, her voice steady but with an undercurrent of urgency. I had to come. Jake stepped forward. Clara, how did you know? We were trying to form a resistance. Yes, she nodded, and your instincts are dead on. But you need to know something. She hesitated, glancing at the men who had just stormed out, still visible through the diner's windows. Those men, they're part of something much bigger. What's happening here is just a fraction of a larger plan to take this entire region. They're not just interested in our town. They want everything. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Jake felt his heart sink a little deeper. They were up against something formidable. Is that why you left? Someone asked, voicing the question swirling in everyone's head. Because you didn't think we could win? Clara shook her head vehemently. No. I stepped back because I thought I was fighting a losing battle. But watching you all the way you stood up today, it shined light on everything I thought was lost. I can't stay silent anymore. Ethan tugged at Jake's sleeve. Dad, is she saying she wants to help? Jake felt a flicker of hope ignite in his chest. Do you, Clara? He approached her, searching her expression. Do you really want to join us? Yes. Clara stepped forward, determination threading through her voice. We need a strategy. I'm here to share something vital, a contract clause I stumbled on before I left office. It could turn the tide in our favor. Contract? What are you talking about? Jake pressed, intrigued. Clara's face lit up with purpose. A legal loophole. Something they overlooked that could sway public opinion and force a halt to their plans. But more importantly, it can bring our community together and help us shine a light on their malicious intent. Lisa, standing poised at Clara's side, leaned in. What do we need? We'll do anything. Clara pressed on with urgency. We need to gather evidence, testimonials, anything that would highlight our community's value and the repercussions if they demolish it. If we can expose the truth behind that contract, we won't just stop them, we can take back what's ours. Hope surged through the room like a gust of fresh air. The sounds of uncertainty faded, replaced by whispers of strategy and determination. But deep inside, Jake felt a flutter of doubt. What if this is too little, too late? What if their machinery is already in motion? Clara met his gaze, her eyes fierce. Then we make as much noise as we can. If we're loud enough, we might just be heard. Before he could respond, a loud rumble echoed from outside, the unmistakable roar of engines. Jake felt the ground beneath him tremble. A chill rippled through the crowd as they rushed to the windows. There, just beyond the diner's parking lot, a line of workers and heavy machinery snaked into view. The intruders had returned, and this time they were ready to act. Now the question loomed over Jake and the townsfolk. Could they mobilize fast enough to rally against the forces that threatened to tear their home apart? The reality of their fight was palpable, but resolve began to solidify in Jake's gut. They had no choice. They had to stand tall and face what was coming. Just then, Clara leaned in closer, her expression serious. We need to act, and fast. But first, I have something else to share with you all that changes everything. Jake held his breath. He sensed the weight of what she was about to reveal could either be the beacon of hope or the final nail in their coffin. What was this revelation that could shift their fight for Maple? Clara's eyes sparkled with an intensity that made everyone lean in closer, the background noise of engines fading away as if the world had shrunk to just the five of them. Jake could sense that the air in the diner was charged with anticipation. He wished so badly for her revelation to be the lifeline they so desperately needed. Before I left office, Clara began, her voice steady, I came across a clause in a contract that was hidden in the fine print. It's a loophole that could invalidate their entire project. But I never had the chance to expose it until now. Ethan's eyes grew wide, filled with wonder. What does it say? He blurted out, hope spilling from his face. Clara took a breath, her gaze sweeping over the crowd, encouraging them to hang on her every word. It states that any project which threatens historical landmarks must undergo an extensive review process that involves community input and potential legal challenges, she explained. They thought they could cut through that red tape, but they misjudged the value of our town's history. They never expected anyone would actually dig through the details. As she spoke, Jake felt the flicker of belief spreading through him, and the others gathered. Maybe they weren't as powerless as they thought. Clara continued, this means we need to come together not just in spirit but in action. We must gather proof of our town's significance, stories from our residents, and anything that highlights what Maple truly means to us. Can we pull that together before they start tearing things down? Lisa asked, her voice trembling with both doubt and determination. Clara squared her shoulders. We have to. I know time is short, but if we coordinate our efforts, we can execute a community campaign that gets everyone involved. We have passionate people in Maple who know what this town stands for. Let their voices be heard. Just then, a loud clanging sound interrupted them. A heavy steel arm from the machinery had swung too far, crashing against the metal barrier by the parking lot. The earth shook again, and panic flickered among the crowd. Clara! Jake exclaimed, a sense of urgency creeping into his tone. We don't have much time. How do we start? Clara's expression hardened, and a strategic glint lit up her eyes. We need a meeting tonight. Everyone who cares about this town must come. We'll form teams to gather stories, photos, anything that proves why Maple should remain intact. Jake felt a wave of emotion wash over him. They were finally taking a stand, uniting under Clara's leadership. At that moment, it hit him the past, the present, and the future of Maple were all woven together, relying on this one act of bravery. He turned to scan the faces around him, seeing not just fear but a spark lighting up each expression. Hope was rising like the sun breaking through storm clouds. Let us get to work, he shouted, his voice carrying courage. The diner erupted into lively chatter, unity blossoming among the townsfolk. They rushed to organize, inspired to protect what was theirs. Clara smiled as she watched them rally. But as Jake prepared to head outside with the first group, she called him back. Wait, Jake, there's one more thing we need to discuss. His heart raced again, sensing the gravity in her tone. What was she going to say? Did she have more news, or was there something they hadn't yet considered? Remember that their leader has a weakness, something we can use, Clara said, her voice dropping to a hush. We can exploit his past. It could make a bigger impact than you think. Jake's pulse quickened. This wasn't just about saving their town anymore. They were getting ready for a full-on battle. He held onto her gaze, his mind racing with possibilities. What could this revelation mean for their fight? And would it be enough to shift the tide? The urgency thickened the air as he realized that what came next could change everything. Everyone in the diner was buzzing with energy. Clara's revelation had ignited a fire within their hearts, but they all knew they couldn't afford to sit back and let that energy fade. Each minute that passed brought them closer to impending destruction, and time was not on their side. Jake led a group outside, the excitement mingling with nervousness. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the pavement as he gathered the townsfolk. All right, everyone. We need to brainstorm and gather as much information as we can. He shouted, his voice echoing across the parking lot. Ethan stepped forward, clutching a pen and notepad like a lifeline. Let us split up. Some of us can hit the library for historical records, and others can start contacting residents to share their stories. No detail is too small. There was a collective nod from the crowd. Lisa piped up, we can set up a social media campaign too. Everyone has a smartphone, right? We can collect stories online, post photos of our landmarks, anything that shows why Maple is worth saving. Jake felt a surge of pride wash over him. They were coming together, and the spirit of community he remembered growing up in Maple was rising from the ashes. He could see Clara at the edge of the group, holding her phone and frowning slightly at its screen. He approached her. "What's up?" he asked gently, noticing a crease of worry on her brow. "The timeline," she replied, glancing nervously back at the diner. "I wish we had more. They're not going to wait long before starting demolition. We might only have days, not weeks. Then we'll work faster," Jake said, firming his resolve. "Let us do this. We all want to fight for Maple." Clara's gaze softened as she looked at him, the weight of the world apparent in her eyes. "If we fail," she began but stopped. "We won't fail," Jake interrupted, his heart pounding as he took her hand. "Not today. We'll make sure everyone stands with us. We can make their voices heard, loud enough to drown out the sound of machinery." Around them, people began moving in different directions, driven by newfound purpose. Jake felt a sense of unity that was almost electric. But as he watched his neighbors gather their belongings to head off on their missions, a chilling thought crept into his mind. What if they failed? What if no one cared enough to help? They dispersed, some headed to the town hall, others to their homes, gathering their histories like fragments of a shattered glass, shards waiting to be reassembled. Jake's heart raced every time he glanced at Clara. The pressure of the task ahead hung heavily on his shoulders, but he reminded himself that they weren't alone. "Clara," he called, turning back as he started to walk away. "Everything we do, it'll be worth it, right?" With a determined nod, she replied, "Absolutely." Then she paused, an almost imperceptible tension threading through the moment. "We can't forget about their leader. He's unpredictable, and if he catches wind of what we're trying to do, I know what we're up against," Jake said, remembering how Clara spoke of that weakness they could exploit. "We need to be smart. We'll keep a low profile while gathering our evidence. If he finds out, we'll have to tread carefully." Today would not just be about stories or history. It held the potential for revelations that could topple the foundation of the enemy they faced. With a heavy heart, he realized that unraveling their rival's past might lead them down dark paths, but it seemed they were ready for that too. As he joined the others, his determination solidified. There was no backing down now. There was too much at stake. Clara's eyes flashed with something that looked like hope, but more than that, it looked like determination. And yet, there was something else there too, a flicker of doubt. "Jake," she said softly, and he felt the mood shift again. "Do you really believe we can pull this off? Can we truly outmaneuver them?" His response hung thick in the air as he thought of all they'd fight for. "We have to believe," he replied quietly, though a part of him was still wrestling with uncertainty. The day was far from over, and somewhere, the clock was ticking down to a confrontation that could either make or break them all. Would they be able to protect Maple, or was this the beginning of the end? And as Jake stepped away, the question lingered: was this fight more than just about saving their town? What truths would they uncover about the people determined to tear it down? The sun dipped lower, casting a warm, orange glow across Maple. Each step Jake took felt heavier as he pushed himself through the growing crowd. The chatter buzzed in his ears, a mix of hope and anxiety. Was it foolish to think they could beat back the shadows looming over their town? "Jake, over here." Ethan waved him over, his face flushed with excitement. "I found a document in the library archives that references the original land grant. It has a clause about preservation efforts. If we can get this to the media, it might force them to reconsider the demolition." Jake's heart skipped. "Are you serious? That's perfect." He took the dusty old paper in his hands, scanning it quickly. The words leapt off the page, igniting a spark of determination deep within him. "This is it. If we can just make the right people understand this, it could change everything." Just then, Lisa burst through the door, her phone glued to her ear. "You won't believe this. The local paper wants to interview us about what's going on. Can you believe it?" Jake felt a wave of exhilaration wash over him. "That's amazing. If we can share our stories, our memories, we can turn the tide." Clara approached, her expression serious. "Hold on, we need to be tactical. This can't just be a rallying cry. We need hard evidence. Something to back up everything we're saying." The urgency in her voice hit him like a bucket of ice water. He nodded. "You're right. We need to gather the stories, the data, everything we can find about what makes Maple worth saving. Let us do some interviews. The people need to have a voice too." Watching Clara inspire their neighbors stirred something in Jake. When did she become this fierce warrior? The change was stunning, like watching a restrained flame erupt into a roaring fire. He could feel her determination lifting them all. "Ready when you are," Clara said, her smile warming the cool evening air. They turned toward the group again, the passion radiating from the small collective of townsfolk. It wasn't just about a diner, not just about a few bricks and mortar. It was about community, legacy, love. As the first people began to sit down, sharing their stories, emotions soared and spirits swelled. Gentle laughter intermingled with tears as memories of Maple, from the county fair to the annual Christmas tree lighting, were recounted. Every anecdote built on the last, each story shared a unique thread in the rich tapestry of their town's legacy. They filled their notepads, leaving no stone unturned. But amidst the joy, an unsettling thought clawed at Jake's mind. What if the leader of the demolition team got wind of this? What if he tried to stop them before they even had a chance to rally their town? "Hey!" Ethan's voice broke through his thoughts. "We need to act fast. If that guy finds out, he'll do whatever it takes to silence us. We need to get this interview with the paper tomorrow, and we should share Clara's story when they realize a resident is the catalyst. It'll grab attention. Right? We need to make sure everyone knows what's at stake," Jake said, a sense of urgency propelling him forward. He looked around at the faces filled with determination. A sense of hope pulsed among them, but it was also laced with worry. They were on the brink of something huge, but the enemy was still lurking. As they gathered their materials for the night, Jake caught Clara's eye once more. Her unwavering determination steadied him, but the reality of their situation loomed like a dark cloud over their heads. "We really can't let him get to us," she said softly. "We have to be strong." "We will be," he assured her, a thrill of fear and resolve weaving through him. "No matter what happens." But as they dispersed once again, Jake felt the weight of his thoughts return. Did they have enough time? Would what they found hold up against the brewing storm? With every heartbeat echoing the ticking clock, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the biggest challenges lay ahead. And that revelation, as it loomed larger in his mind, fueled his resolve. Was the truth buried deeper than they realized? What skeletons could they unearth that might shift the balance in their favor? The fight for Maple was just beginning, and the real truth was waiting to be discovered. The following morning broke with a cool mist hanging in the air, the streets of Maple still and quiet. But the calm didn't last long. Jake stood on the sidewalk, his heart racing. Today was crucial. The interview with the local paper could ignite everything they had been fighting for, yet a gnawing anxiety consumed him. They had to make an impact. As Jake entered the cafe, the atmosphere buzzed with an electric mix of anticipation and dread. Clara was already there, flipping through her notes, her brow furrowed in concentration. She looked up, her eyes wide. "Hey, did you read through that document we found?" He nodded. "I did. But I keep thinking, what if that guy with the demolition crew hears about us first? We need to be strategic, not just emotional." Clara tapped her fingers on the table, thoughtful. "I know. We can't just run off with our feelings. We need to be ready for pushback." Ethan joined them, coffee in hand, his usual cheerful disposition slightly clouded. "Listen, I overheard some folks at the diner. They're already talking about how we're wasting our time. People are scared. We need more than emotional stories. We need hard facts to convince them." Jake felt turmoil hit him like a wave. What if we take a different angle? We don't just need their stories, but the real connections, the people behind the memories. Those personal ties are what resonate with the media. They want a story, and we have to give it to them. Right? Clara beamed. Let us pull together a handful of compelling stories that share the heart of Maple. Everyone has a voice, and we can spotlight that. Jake felt a flicker of hope ignite at the thought. Let us split up. We can hit different neighborhoods, get these stories compiled before our interview. We want to just speak for them. We'll let them speak for themselves. The trio rallied, gathering their papers. As they ventured out, the ever-growing sun illuminated their paths, and with every step, Jake felt nervous excitement stirring in him. The people of Maple trusted them to fight for their town, and he didn't want to let them down. Jake made his way to the park, a place filled with laughter and memories. He approached a couple, a pair of elderly citizens sitting beneath a grand oak tree. With a warm smile, he introduced himself. "Do you have a minute to share what Maple means to you?" Initially hesitant, the old man's eyes softened. Moments later, his deep voice resonated. "This park, it's where I proposed to my wife. 50 years together, we've spent almost every weekend right here." Jake felt something shift. With each story, each memory shared, he jotted down notes, desperate to capture the essence of their lives. As fear faltered and connection blossomed, little by little, Jake pieced the community's narrative together and felt the spark they ignited the night before becoming flames. When he returned to the cafe, carrying the weight of the stories he'd gathered, Clara looked hopeful. "Did you get good ones?" "Yeah, more than I can count." His heart brimmed with newfound confidence. "But we must remember they can still shut us down. That guy could make a move any day. He knows we're coming for him." Clara's expression hardened. "Then let us go all in. If we have enough support from the town, we can't just be silenced. It's time to show them the power of our voices." With determination lighting their spirits, they prepared for the interview, the clock ticking ever closer to their moment of truth. But as they finally entered the paper's office, their resolve began to waver. There sat the editor, arms crossed, skepticism shadowing her features. Jake felt a knot form in his stomach. Would they be able to sway her? This was their shot, yet doubt crept in, whispering that maybe it wouldn't be enough. As the editor leaned forward, ready to listen, Jake's mind raced at the thought of what could happen next. Could the stories be strong enough to create waves? And what if this was just the beginning of something bigger than they ever imagined? As the first question burst forth, Jake's heart thundered in anticipation. Had he gathered enough courage to face whatever lay ahead? The sun rose high that day above Maple, casting a golden hue over the town where memories had been woven into the very fabric of its existence. Jake stood in front of the diner, the place where everything had begun. He could still feel the energy swirling in the air, the fear, the anger, and, amid it all, the undeniable unity of the people who stood by him. Today was the day their fight would culminate. Inside the diner, townsfolk gathered like a family reunion, each face reflecting determination and hope. The seats were full, chatter was animated, and stories flowed like the coffee that filled their cups. Clara stood at the front, her voice steady and inspiring. "Let us not forget why we are here," she urged, scanning the room filled with friends, neighbors, and family. We're not just stories in a paper. We're a community. Jake felt a surge of pride. They had shared their histories, their love for Maple, and now it was all culminating into something more significant than himself. They could indeed beat back the darkness threatening their home. The group rallied, ready for the interview that could carve their narrative into the public's consciousness. All right, remember, we stick to the facts of who we are, Jake reminded everyone, rallying their spirits. This is about showing how important Maple is our memories, our lives. Are you with me? A chorus of yes ignited the air around him. They moved together toward the entrance where the reporter awaited, ready to share their passions and their pleas. As they filed in, Jake caught Ethan's eye, his pure innocence shining like a beacon. Let us show everyone how special Maple is, his son urged, clutching his own notes tightly. Jake knelt down, placing a hand on Ethan's shoulder. Together, we're going to make sure everyone knows. A confident smile broke through Ethan's youthful features, and in that moment, Jake felt a sense of clarity. Inside, the editor, a woman named Yolanda, looked up, her expression a mix of skepticism and curiosity. "What makes your town worth saving?" she asked, her pen poised and ready. "Go ahead. I'm listening." The room filled with a spirit of camaraderie. Clara started recounting the stories, the fond memories, the townsfolk's struggles, and the beautiful spaces that were their history. Slowly, each voice joined in, sharing the essence of their lives shaped by this town. Jake interjected with fervor. "Yolanda, it's not just about brick and mortar, it's the laughter, the resilience, and the love we have for our community. Our town represents everything that makes us who we are. If we lose it, we lose a part of ourselves." Yolanda, ever the professional, made notes, but there was a light in her eyes, a flicker of realization. With each story shared, it became more evident that the power of their community lay not just in tradition, but in genuine connections. They were proving to her that Maple was more than a location. It was the heartbeat of countless lives interwoven. The interview continued, the atmosphere charged with emotions. Laughter punctuated the air, and shared tears bonded them closer. It was as if they were weaving an intricate tapestry that would tell their story to the world. Jake felt the once looming darkness recede, replaced by a sense of purpose that resonated within the diner's walls. As the interview wrapped up, Yolanda smiled faintly, clearly touched. "You have a powerful story. Let us get to work on this piece. I believe it can make waves." Ethan beamed, and Jake fell to his knees, enveloping his son in a warm embrace. "We did it, buddy. This is just the beginning." But as they celebrated, Jake felt a pressure lingering. The threats were far from over. Corporations didn't back down easily, and the looming bulldozers were still a sharp reality. That afternoon, they gathered once more at the diner, and the energy buzzed with excitement. But also apprehension. "What's next, Jake?" Clara asked, her brow furrowing slightly. "Now we spread the message," Jake started, looking around at the faces he had begun to call family again. "We harness this energy. We need to keep gathering stories, rally the support, and keep public pressure on the corporation. They won't back down without a fight. We need to be ready." Just then, Mr. Thompson, his voice deep and steady, spoke up. "They think they can bulldoze us, but we've already shown them that they underestimated our spirit. We need to show them we're not just a town, we're a force." Jake nodded. "Absolutely. We'll create a website, share our stories, coordinate with every local media outlet. They have to know we'll fight back with everything we have." And so, that's what they did. The sun dipped lower, casting a warm light on the townsfolk who banded together, drafting plans, flyers, and social media campaigns. There was laughter rippling through the room, every moment an affirmation of their existence, a promise that together they could overcome. Days turned into a campaign fueled by love and history, and weekly gatherings transformed into beacons of hope. As articles began to flood the local papers, Maple's voice grew louder, its spirit undeniable, and then, one day, the news broke. An article, prominently displayed, told the town's story. It showcased the grassroots movement fighting corporate corruption, and the legacy they all cherished. It ignited something across the state. Phone calls of support began pouring in from across town and beyond. "What did I tell you?" Clara smiled, pride swelling in her heart. "They're hearing us." But just as excitement brewed, uncertainty loomed again. The representatives from the corporation were not blind to what was happening. They stood ready to retaliate, their determination evident. Jake felt hot fury burn through him. "Let them come," he shouted one night as they prepared for the next meeting after receiving threats. "We can't let them intimidate us. Let us keep gathering evidence, showing them how deep our roots are in this town." The atmosphere in the diner thickened, and fear began to mingle with empowerment. Each person understood the stakes, their personal investments intertwined with a fierce determination that resonated deep within them. As they armed themselves with resolve, Jake looked around, feeling the hum of community flowing through him. "Whatever comes next, remember, we fight together. Maple isn't just a place, it's who we are." As shadows lengthened outside, a sense of unity clasps them tighter. They weren't just defending a town anymore, they were protecting each other, their families, and their dreams. And just like that, the fight continued. They confronted the looming giants with their hearts on their sleeves, knowing that in vulnerability, there was strength. It was about love, legacy, and the unwavering power of standing together. As night began to fall, Jake and Ethan left the diner side by side, the glow of hope casting light on their path. And just beyond the horizon, he could sense a shift. This was no longer just a battle for Maple, it was a fight for every community that dared to dream. Together, they knew they could change everything forever. Now is the time for you to be part of this movement. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about this amazing transformation, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this. You need to stand united, just like the community in this story. Don't wait not even one more second, let us rise together.